I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to start this video by asking all those who were calling for Arne Slot's head in my comment section to show their faces after this one, because it's been back-to-back good performances, back-to-back good results, and really capping it off tonight with an incredible win over Real Madrid. And I mean, all those who were questioning the manager and, as I say, really calling for his head and saying that he wasn't good enough. I mean, come on, Liverpool haven't just beaten Real Madrid, the great Real Madrid, one of Europe's best sides in any season. They've absolutely dominated them in beating them 1-0 here tonight. I mean, it was just as good as the 24-25 performance against Real Madrid. I thought, when I remember saying after that game that Liverpool were the best team in the world in that moment, and I absolutely believed it. And this performance tonight was just as good. And you could argue, really, that they were playing against a Real Madrid that is even better than last year's version, and yet Liverpool just took them apart from start to finish and ended up deserved winners. And in fact, the only reason that the scoreline wasn't slightly more comfortable was Thibaut Courtois put in another of those performances you may remember from the Champions League final in Paris. It was basically Courtois against Liverpool's attack, but unfortunately for him this time, Liverpool did breach his goal and they were able to be the ones who ran out 1-0 winners rather than the other way around, which of course happened in Paris. And I say it was an absolutely dominant win, and the statistics completely back that up, because you look at them, 17 shots to 8 in Liverpool's favour, 9 shots on target for Liverpool and just the 2 for Real Madrid, 4-1 on big chances, and the expected goals really underline what a kind of shellacking this was really from Liverpool. 2.58 for them on the expected goals, just a 0.45 for Real Madrid. And I talked about process after the Aston Villa game, that you needed to see that the foundations for future good performances were there. Well, again, I think we saw it again here. If you are clocking up 2.58 expected goals in a game and just giving up 0.45, and you do that consistently, you are going to win an awful lot of football games. And of course, it makes it even more impressive when you're doing it against a Real Madrid side with the talent that they've got in their team, the quality that they've got. And we did see that in moments. There was some scary moments for Liverpool, even if it didn't end in great chances for Real Madrid, just a moments where they can play through you, or a little dribble from Mbappe, and all of a sudden the game starts to open up a little bit. And they did show that, but Liverpool were just all over them in terms of the performance. And I mean, you've got to remember as well that I was saying this is a better Real Madrid side than I think the one they faced last year, because Real Madrid had a few injuries coming into that game and a few problems that Ancelotti had to deal with. And the fact is, they've got a new manager there in Alonso who has made a very, very good start to this season. He's got, he's got pretty much all his options available. And of course, coming into this game, they'd suffered one defeat all season, that against Atletico Madrid, and they'd won 13 games outside of that one. So, they came here full of confidence, full of belief, and like a Real Madrid team, kind of arrogantly coming here knowing that they could win at Anfield because they've got the quality, the experience, everything you need to do that. And yet they turned up here today and got, I thought, absolutely schooled by Liverpool. And kind of my first talking point really is you have to give huge credit for Arne Slot for that. I mean, I just thought he was perfect from start to finish tonight, as he was against Aston Villa as well. I mean, people are pretending this guy's not a good manager, and some of the criticism way over the top for the start to this season. I mean, there have been moments where he's deserved criticism, but he's still a quality manager. He hasn't forgotten that. He wasn't just riding Jurgen Klopp's coattails last season, and I think he showed tonight, going up against one of the best managers in Europe, one of the most promising managers in Europe, that again, kind of took his team apart really. And I think that started from the selection, the team selection. It was perfect really. I mean, keeping that midfield three together was a big call. He could have maybe mixed that up, having Andy Robertson in at left back instead of Milos Kerkez, and of course putting Florian Wirtz in there, which more on both of those really later in the video. And I think the tactics as well were absolutely spot on from Arne Slot. I mean, you look at the statistics in terms of possession, and Liverpool have 39% possession to Real Madrid's 61%, and you think, you don't often see that from Liverpool at Anfield, do you? They generally would like to dominate the ball here. They would like to be in control of games in that way. But you can also, it's possible to control games without the ball. We saw Liverpool do that at Manchester City last season, where they let City have it, but they didn't really trouble them at all. And it was a very kind of similar tactic we saw today. And I wonder whether he did watch that Atletico Madrid game, the only team apart from Liverpool now who have beaten Real Madrid this season. And of course, they just gave up, as you would expect of Atletico Madrid. And they've been poor this season, by the way, but they just gave up all the ball to Real Madrid. Let them have it, let them kind of keep it, try and keep keep them out of dangerous areas if you can, run side to side, make them move it, but as long as they don't threaten you. And I think that was the tactic from Liverpool tonight, is that they just let Real Madrid have the ball, and a sort of surprising amount of kind of sterile possession from Real Madrid, having a lot of the ball but not really any moment. There'd be the odd moment where they get into a dangerous position but not really consistently able to do that, and a lot of kind of side to side, Liverpool in a lowish block, looking pretty comfortable really. So tactically, I thought he got it absolutely spot on. And I was thinking at times there were moments where Real Madrid would create a transition, and they did do that. And I don't know whether it was Alonso's tactics, and maybe he deserves criticism for this, but some of the transitions got turned into kind of sterile possession. Like Real Madrid would kind of get it into a dangerous area, and rather than kind of going for the jugular, they would pass it back and circulate it again, allow Liverpool to get back into shape. So I wonder whether that's partly a criticism of Alonso, but also credit to Liverpool for always getting them back to slow the transition downs. I thought they did a fantastic job of that. And I think, like I say, you've got to give real respect and credit to the manager really for setting it up in that way, for getting it absolutely spot on. And as I say, with Alonso, he's one of the best young managers in Europe. He's a manager everybody would have wanted. He went from Bayer Leverkusen, he's at Real Madrid for goodness sake. And yet, I think for the second year on the bounce, Arne Slot has kind of took his team apart, because Liverpool, of course, thrashed Bayer Leverkusen here last season 4-0. And tonight, again, may not have ended 4-0, but Liverpool were very, very dominant in this game. So Slot, there was all that talk, wasn't there, of him going up against Alonso for this job, and Alonso maybe sticking around at Bayer Leverkusen to go to Real Madrid instead. Well, Arne Slot's got 2 results against him back-to-back seasons now that really show he is just as good a manager, and I really do think that is the case. So again, I'm going to remind you, those who were calling for his head, he must be slightly full of regrets now, I'd imagine. Now, anyway, I'm going to move on from that and trying to be smug about being right or whatever, and talk about some individual performances. And I'm going to start with my man of the match, really, Conor Bradley. I mean, he really does seem to have a problem with Real Madrid, doesn't he? He doesn't seem to like them, and I thought he was fantastic, as he had been in the performance against them last season. And I think got to acknowledge that he's had a bit of a tough start to this season, really, hasn't he? Obviously, some questions being asked about him. Is he good enough to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold? Does he have the quality to go with the endeavour? Does he pick up yellow cards too easily? Is it, and kind of just getting a lot of criticism. But I do think the injury that he had in the pre-season period kind of seemed to knock him off a little bit, and I just think it's took him a while to get some rhythm. But he really seems to be growing into this season now and reminding everybody of what a good player he is. And tonight, again, he did it against Real Madrid. I mean, his statistics there: 3 tackles, 2 clearances, 7 recoveries, 7 out of 12 ground duels won. So he just seemed to be winning everything. And I think that the way you kind of highlight that as well is the fact that Vinicius Jr., who was up against him down Real Madrid's left, Liverpool's right, 2 out of 9 ground duels won. And I have a mate who doesn't support Liverpool, but he texted me in the middle of the game and kind of said, or towards the end of it, sorry, and kind of said, I'm watching this, and I think Bradley's absolutely pocketed Vinicius Jr. He's my man of the match, and he's absolutely right in that. As I say, he's got no skin in the game, not a Liverpool supporter, but he could see just how well Bradley was doing and how he was basically taking one of Real Madrid's biggest threats in their team completely out of the game, really. And we're talking about a player who he thought he should have won the Ballon d'Or, but he was in contention for that. He was one of the top players in the world, and he really just didn't look it tonight, because Conor Bradley, as I say, he completely pocketed him. A fantastic performance. And I think it was interesting, wasn't it, to contrast to Trent, who came on, he got booed with every touch, and whereas Conor Bradley was having an absolutely brilliant time down there. And the fact is, we maybe shouldn't make that comparison, because look, Conor Bradley, for all his qualities, he's never going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're a completely different profile of player, so we can't expect the same things from him. He's got to be his own man. But what he is, his own man, is a very, very, very good footballer, isn't it? And I just think it was, he keeps proving that at the highest level. And I think hopefully, and this is the key thing for him, he needs to stay consistently fit now. And if he does that, I think Liverpool have got a totally different right back to what they had in Trent Alexander-Arnold, but a very, very high quality one. And by the way, just to quickly wrap up on him, I want to talk about his work in build-up today. Looked so comfortable in it, up against Real Madrid's press, and I really like that, because that's one of the things you'd be most worried about with him. Is he as capable of building from the back as Trent Alexander-Arnold? But I thought he looked it today, taking the ball in tight areas, little cute balls down the line, squeezing the ball out somehow. I think that will kind of calm a lot of nerves around him and his ability to contribute to build up. And like I say, all that Liverpool need now is for him to stay fit, and then they will be absolutely laughing. And I guess the same is true of another player I want to talk about again, which is Alexis Mac Allister. And like I said, after the Villa game, I wanted to talk about him. That was his best performance of the season so far. He backed it up with probably another best performance of the season so far. And I think, he's just so important to this team, really, in terms of knitting everything together. And I think Liverpool have really missed him being at top form so far this season. So it was, it's been a real boost to get him back suddenly in form from really kind of nowhere. And nobody really saw this coming in such a massive week for Liverpool. And you think, his performance against Real Madrid last season, when, as I said, I thought at that time that Liverpool were the best team in Europe, arguably in the world in that moment. And Mac Allister was one of the key men in that. So he's really, really important to that. So, and again, he put on a very, very similar performance here tonight in terms of just doing everything on both sides of the ball. And I mean, his header is fabulous, by the way. The power he generates on that, it's a great delivery from Szoboszlai, but he does so well to generate the power, and it kind of goes through Courtois because of the speed he gets on it. So an absolutely fantastic header. The only man who managed to beat Courtois all night, because he was in unbelievable form. And you add to that, they had 4 shots, 91% pass completion, which I think is the most impressive statistic he put up, because it was clogged in there in midfield. Real Madrid were putting bodies around the ball, making it difficult at times, and to complete that many of your passes, to some of the ones he was just firing through the lines and just squeezing them out and getting Liverpool from back to front, because they needed to kind of create transitions because they didn't have as much of the ball. And I thought Mac Allister was so good at that in terms of being the first contact with the ball, finding a man somehow, squeezing the ball out, and then Liverpool could turn away then, and then they would get on the attack. And so he was so important in terms of that. His defensive work is back up there where you want it to be now, 5 out of 10 duels won. And as I say, I just thought knits everything together in this Liverpool team in midfield. Incredible performance. He scored as well to cap it off. Thank goodness he's fit and back to top form, and that will have a big impact, I think, on Liverpool's season going forward, because he is a world-class footballer. There's no question in my mind about that. So thank goodness the best version of Alexis Mac Allister is back. And I also think we're starting to see the best version of someone else, and that is Florian Wirtz, who, for me, could this have been his best performance in a Liverpool shirt so far? I would certainly argue so. I think the closest to this was Atletico Madrid, but I think Atletico Madrid was struggling a bit at that time, and I thought Liverpool, that was Liverpool's best performance maybe as a whole, but I thought he put it all together here against truly elite opposition in Real Madrid, and he just looked fantastic. Now, the headline statistic here is he creates 5 chances, which is more than anybody else on the pitch, and I just thought, he just looked creative, he looked comfortable, he looked really, really good. And, 4 out of 8 ground duels, worked his socks off completely. And as I say, maybe his best performance yet, because, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I thought he looked so comfortable and happy out on that left-hand side. He's not an out-and-out winger by any means, but he was given the licence to roam. And this is something I've been calling for a while, really, is for him to be used in that role, because I think Gakpo has been scoring, but his form hasn't been absolutely out of this world. So it's felt like there's a vacancy there. And the fact is, it not only helps the team, because what we saw today is that it helped the team in terms of he could come inside and make it kind of a box midfield, and Liverpool could kind of, get the little passes off that they needed to get the kind of quick transitions going, always having a man close to you to hit with the ball. That was really handy. But also I think it just gets the best out of Wirtz individually as well. Not just it's good for the team, it's good for him as a player, because he spent so much of his time at Bayer Leverkusen. He was a left 10, but he would drift wide to get the ball, and I've said it a million times, it allows him to build up speed into his dribbling, to run at players, to just not be kind of tightly man-marked as he would be through the centre of the pitch. So it just suits everyone down to the ground. And as I say, 5 chances created, more than anybody else on the pitch. He looked like a world-class footballer, and hey, he should have had an assist as well, shouldn't he, for that ball he puts in for Szoboszlai at the top end just behind me. Very, very unlucky that Courtois pulls off a ridiculous save there. So I think Wirtz is making a case here. Keep me in the team, use me off that left-hand side, and that allows you to keep that midfield 3 together as well. And I just think it seems to really work. It brings control, it brings quality, and it gets the best out of Florian Wirtz, which is probably a pretty good idea when you've paid so much money for him, to try and get the best out of him. So I really want to see Arne Slot stick with that and let Florian Wirtz fly now, because it looks judging by the past couple of performances, he's starting to get there now, and I really think we'll start to see, as the season progresses, the best of him in a Liverpool shirt, and that is very, very exciting because he is an absolutely brilliant footballer. Now, quickly before I go, I also want to mention Andy Robertson. I didn't want to let this slide without mentioning him. I mean, he's come in here, and I don't think it's a massive coincidence that he's come into this Liverpool team and they've put in the 2 best performances of the season back to back. He just brings so much in terms of his experience, in terms of the quality that he adds to the build-up as well. I'm not saying that Kirkes will be out of the team forever, and maybe there's decisions to make on fitness and doing 3 games in a week around the left-back area for the Man City game, but I thought Robertson was fantastic again tonight. He didn't let anything come down his side. He wins 5 out of 7 duels. And as I say, just really, really handy to have him in build-up, to have his experience around as well. He's a massive figure for this football club, arguably one of the best left-backs. He's got to be kind of top 3 left-backs at the very least that this club has ever had. And I think you see the quality he shows in a game of this size up against quick, scary attackers. He just showed, I thought, just sheer quality really all the way through his performance, and what an asset he is for Liverpool to have. Whether it continues beyond the end of this season or not, we'll have to see. But I think he's just a fantastic professional, brilliant footballer, and he showed that again tonight. So that's the end of the coverage of the game. I just want to give a quick mention before I wrap up actually to the crowd tonight, who I thought were phenomenal again. Liverpool have needed Anfield these last couple of games, coming off the back of a horrendous run where everything seemed to go wrong for them, and I think the crowd has absolutely delivered it. They did it against Aston Villa on Saturday. Of course they did it tonight against Real Madrid, but Liverpool is at its best as a club when the crowd and the team are working in synergy, and I think we've seen that over the last couple of games. So huge credit to every supporter who was in here tonight. But I reckon a few of you were watching on telly as well, screaming along to that sort of performance, because it was one that you could absolutely get behind as a fan. A phenomenal performance, a classy, gritty, brilliant performance, world class from 1 to 11 from Liverpool tonight, and the result of that is a 1-0 win over Real Madrid that I think announces that Liverpool, they're not done yet. There's every chance they can challenge for major honours this season, but of course there are more games to come and they've got to do this consistently, but this is a very, very good start in that regard. So, going to wrap it up there, and as usual, let's have your comments on this one. I'm sure everyone's feeling very, very happy. And those Arne Slot out brigade, I want to hear from you as well. And of course, if you can like and subscribe, I would hugely appreciate that. And particularly subscribe, because we're getting very, very close to 40,000 subscribers. So I appreciate everyone who's on board already. And if you want to join up now, it's a good time to do so, because Liverpool are improving. Maybe they'll be in the hunt for trophies this season. We'll see. So I'll wrap it up there and say I'll see you guys very soon.